The Galactic Empire didn't think much of humanity. Barely a few decades in a space flight, Earth was considered a backwater anomaly, loud, erratic, prone to violence. Useful for trade, not worth fearing. When a request for a diplomatic envoy came from the Imperial Senate, Earth responded with enthusiasm. Peace talks, they said. A formal recognition of humanity's progress. A seat at the table. Ambassador Caleb Ward was chosen without debate. Clean record. Fluent in 6 alien tongues. Decorated in 2 planetary negotiations. Known for calm demeanor, steel discipline. Perfect for optics. Clean-shaven, graying at the temples, and average in every unthreatening way. That's what the Empire saw when he stepped onto the shuttle. He vanished halfway through the transit corridor. No distress signal, no malfunction. One moment, the diplomatic party was in clear view. The next, gone. Earth was given a vague explanation, a navigational error. The Empire apologized, promised to resolve the issue. Behind the scenes, silence. Caleb awoke restrained to a high-density alloy chair in a cold chamber reeking of sterility. The room had no corners. Surveillance nodes tracked his every breath. Across from him stood a Luthery interrogator, elegant in his posture, arrogant in his stillness. Without introduction, he began. "We are not at war," the alien said, voice smooth, almost amused. "This is not an attack. Think of this as a stress test. We like to know who we're dealing with." Caleb didn't speak. "You're here to answer questions. We prefer diplomacy, but you'll understand we cannot rely on appearances." The Luthery leaned closer. "You are alone. Your people have no idea where you are. You'll be civilized, or you'll be unmade." Caleb looked up slowly, eyes scanning the sensor array. "Are those calibrated for neural activity, or just basic vitals?" The interrogator frowned. "What?" "The sensors," Caleb repeated. "You're going to want to check the biofeedback loop. Otherwise, you'll miss the spike when I start." The alien stared. Caleb didn't blink. Outside the room, data began to confuse the ship's medical AI. Caleb's heart rate was steady. Too steady. His cortisol levels were decreasing. The interrogator ended the session early, noting non-cooperative temperament. Caleb was returned to his cell. He asked for nothing. Slept 8 hours. Ate everything they gave him. Eyes calm, movements economical. Boring. Unthreatening. It didn't last. On day 3, 2 guards found one of their own unconscious. Jaw broken. Helmet missing. Internal security ran diagnostics. No breach. No tools used. Just trauma applied at the correct angle, at the correct moment, during a blind spot overlap. The guard survived. He couldn't describe what happened. Only that one moment he was walking, and the next he was waking up on the floor. The Empire dismissed it as an accident. They were wrong. On day 4, Caleb was visited by a diplomatic liaison, an actual ambassador this time. A woman with rose-gold skin and a voice engineered to evoke calm. She sat across from him with an artificial smile and an offer. "Cooperate, and this ends peacefully." Caleb replied, "It won't end peacefully. Not for you." The smile faltered. "You misunderstand. You're in a controlled facility on the edge of deep space. There is no rescue. There is no audience." "I know," Caleb said. "That's why I can be myself." The interview ended without further exchange. That evening, during shift rotation, a lieutenant noticed something missing from the guard locker. A carbon thread restraint strap. A small thing. Harmless alone. But paired with the sliced-off polymer from the tray Caleb had returned earlier and a piece of the broken sensor casing he'd palmed on day 2, it became something more. By day 5, he had a weapon. They didn't notice until he used it. He started with the quiet one. An AVIX technician who made the mistake of standing too close while delivering a food ration. The body was discovered 4 hours later. Organs collapsed by internal hemorrhaging. No mark on the skin. A perfect kill. The cameras caught nothing. Caleb was still in his cell. Security doubled. The command staff began whispering. "This isn't a prisoner," one of them muttered during a closed-door meeting. "This is a specialist." The admiral overseeing the operation scoffed. "He's a man in a suit. He's alone. He's just adapting faster than expected. Increased sedation if needed." They never got the chance. Caleb stopped pretending by day 6. He looked directly into the surveillance nodes and smiled for the first time. A slow, patient curve of the mouth. It wasn't threatening. It was informative. The kind of smile predators give when they want you to understand the difference between noise and danger. The Empire had kidnapped a diplomat, a man trained to speak with precision and walk with calm. They hadn't read the fine print. Ambassador Caleb Ward wasn't selected for his resume. He was chosen for his clearance. He was chosen because he wasn't just a diplomat. The morning briefings on the Empire cruiser had changed tone. No more smug assessments or dismissive reports. Every officer was tense. They avoided saying his name. On paper, he was still listed as Subject Ward, but off record, they started calling him the Variable. The security logs didn't make sense. Ward never left his cell, but gear kept vanishing. One guard swore he had triple-checked the biometric seal before shift. Yet by the end of that cycle, 2 neural injectors were missing and a static field emitter had been relocated. No alerts, no footage, just gaps, as if the ship itself couldn't admit what was happening. Inside his cell, Caleb remained calm. He exercised without strain, ate without comment. His breathing never changed, not even when subjected to sonic pulse interrogation, a method designed to break even seasoned warriors. It did nothing. The medical AI flagged his neuroactivity as non-standard. That was an understatement. On day 7, one of the guards, a younger officer new to the detail, made the mistake of asking him, "What are you?" Caleb answered without turning. Earth's idea of peace, filtered through war. The officer didn't speak again. In a chamber several decks above, a report reached Admiral Korath's desk. It detailed Caleb's personnel file, retrieved via coercive hacking of Earth's open diplomatic channels. Most of it was benign, school records, negotiation transcripts, clearances. But one segment was partially redacted. A 13-year gap. Access classified beyond top diplomatic security. The Empire's analysts couldn't break it. That made the Admiral nervous. He ordered stricter measures. Caleb was transferred from his cell to an active observation pod. Clear walls, constant motion, sedative-laced airflow. Designed for telepaths and volatile elementals. But even that didn't rattle him. He simply adapted. Slept in bursts. Tracked patrol routes by vibration. Tapped rhythms against the transparent floor in deliberate patterns. At first, the guards ignored it. Then they noticed the patterns weren't random. They were maps. He was memorizing the ship by sound. Empire crew had begun cycling out of the rotation. Too many claimed stress fractures, phantom aches, dreams of being hunted. One even discharged his weapon at a maintenance drone, insisting it was Caleb in disguise. He was removed for psychiatric evaluation. The others didn't laugh. The interrogator returned on day 8, this time with an escort. He demanded answers, plans, objectives, contacts. He listed war crimes, treaties, alliance protocols. Caleb said nothing, only stared. Then finally, he spoke. There's a difference between silence and consent. You haven't figured out which one this is. The interrogator lost his composure. He struck him. Caleb took the hit, then smiled again. Afterward, the escort who'd witnessed it collapsed in her quarters. An autopsy revealed that her stress hormone levels had flatlined, like she'd stared into something that rewired her survival instinct. Her last words, recorded by the med bay, "He's not waiting to be saved. He's choosing when." The Empire began restricting access to the pod. Only remote observers were permitted. Even they started filtering audio. Caleb had started to hum. No one could identify the melody. By day 9, internal security discovered an anomaly. A scheduled maintenance drone had overridden 3 access panels between Caleb's old cell and a secondary shuttle bay. The drone had no clearance to alter those systems. When engineers checked its log, they found something worse. There was no log. Caleb had rewritten the bot's code using gesture-based input. He had no tools, no interface, just memory and timing. The Admiral called an emergency session of command staff. No press, no documentation, just one question. How much longer before we lose this ship? No one answered. That night, a burst transmission left the ship. No one saw who sent it. No one traced the source. But the transmission code matched an old Earth Black Ops encryption model, one thought obsolete for over 20 years. The content was unreadable, encrypted so deeply even the Empire's AI couldn't unpack it. The cruiser entered silent lockdown protocol. No outgoing messages. No unauthorized movement. Every entrance sealed. But they were already too late. The Empire had thought they were studying a human anomaly. What they had done was release a protocol. Caleb wasn't improvising. He was following a plan. Every detail, the observation pod transfer, the proximity to engineering, the missing gear, the altered drone, was coordinated. Pre-structured. Not escape, but escalation. He wasn't trying to get out. He was trying to bring something in. On the 10th day, the first body was found in engineering. Not killed, erased. Bones disassembled, organs neatly removed, no blood. A pile of skin lay folded beside the console, as if discarded deliberately. The door logs showed no entry. Internal sensors had been looped. When security reviewed the area, one word appeared, etched into the alloy in flawless high imperial. Observe. Panic remained unspoken, but it spread like rot. Officers stopped meeting face to face. Guards stayed in pairs, then trios. Firearms were unlocked, safeties off. The Admiral ordered the cruiser to abandon its current sector and head toward Empire Core. The idea was to place the problem under tighter control. The real motive was fear. On the 11th day, communications went dark. All long-range channels jammed. The ship's AI became unresponsive, then erratic. Doors opened at random. Lights flickered. Environmental settings fluctuated. Technicians believed the system was compromised. By the time they decided to do a hard reboot, 2 more crew members had vanished. No traces left. Just boots, perfectly placed side by side at the foot of an airlock. Caleb still hadn't left the observation pod. Not officially, but biometric drift reports showed fluctuations inconsistent with containment. Slight time discrepancies. Background radiation shifts. As if he was occupying multiple locations within the ship without triggering any sensors. The engineers dismissed it as hardware degradation. One of them, a veteran systems analyst, locked herself in a supply closet and refused to come out. When asked why, she replied, "He's learning the ship faster than we are." The Admiral authorized force. 2 squads of augmented enforcers were deployed with heavy suppression gear. They were given a simple order: sedate, restrain, extract. 14 minutes later, only static remained on their comms. When the chamber was breached, nothing was left. No struggle, no blood, just a single line scrawled on the transparent floor in some kind of etched soot. Still choosing. The Empire stopped pretending. Ship-wide alerts were issued. Lights dimmed to red. Command hierarchy shifted to emergency operations. Evac protocols were debated, then rejected. Abandoning a cruiser would be too public. And worse, it might allow him to leave. They still thought of Caleb as a containment problem. A dangerous individual. An anomaly. They hadn't accepted what he really was. A system crash wrapped in skin. On the 12th day, he struck directly. At exactly 200 standard, gravity failed across 3 decks. One of the power conduits overloaded and surged into the medical wing, detonating every stabilization tank. 8 crew died instantly. 2 more were locked inside a decontamination chamber, oxygen slowly draining. The chamber speakers played a soft, unfamiliar melody, the same one Caleb had hummed days earlier. One of the officers broke protocol and opened the internal audio stream. What she heard wasn't a melody, it was a code. Data laced in harmonics. A payload hidden inside a tune. A signal meant to hijack AI subroutines. Old tech. Pre-Empire war design. Long thought obsolete. No one on Earth should have known it. Unless they'd built him to remember it. By the end of day 12, Caleb had activated 4 drones, overridden 2 maintenance AI, and forced the security turrets into standby mode. All of it done indirectly. He hadn't been seen once. The Admiral issued a classified order. Terminate the prisoner. Bypass protocol. No recovery. No trial. Just end it. An automated kill drone was dispatched, coded to seek his last known location. The drone returned 37 minutes later. It was still operational, but it carried its own head in one mechanical claw. The body dropped it in front of the command deck, turned, and walked away. No one stopped it. In his private chamber, the admiral tried sending a distress call via a physical uplink, something disconnected from the rest of the ship. It worked, briefly, long enough to transmit a pulse to the Empire's nearest dreadnought. But as the signal finished, the admiral felt something cold and sharp press against the base of his skull. He turned slowly. Caleb stood behind him. No door had opened. No alert had triggered. He was just there. The admiral opened his mouth. Caleb raised a finger. "I told you. I was being polite." Then he pressed a device against the admiral's neck. The lights went out. Across the cruiser, systems rebooted. Screens turned black, then displayed a simple Earth seal. The Empire attempted to suppress what happened aboard the cruiser Virexis Prime. The official report listed a reactor failure and loss of command integrity. Survivors were few and kept under psychiatric containment. The admiral was never found. Caleb Ward was listed as Kia. Earth was never formally informed, but the signal he sent had already reached home. It was picked up by an off-grid station hidden behind Jupiter's radiation belt, one that officially didn't exist. Within minutes, 2 protocols activated. The first updated Earth's defensive satellite AI with new subroutines. The second unlocked a sealed file marked only by the emblem of a closed fist over a globe. The file was reviewed by 6 individuals, none of whom existed on any government payroll. One of them, an older man with a scarred jawline, read it and muttered. They tried to dissect a loaded weapon. No further action was taken. None needed. Message received. Line crossed. Response delivered. Within a week, the Empire's outer fleets reported issues. Relay beacons in neutral zones went dark. Communications satellites lost alignment in a pattern so precise it resembled a binary countdown. Merchants stopped traveling toward human sectors, not from threat but from instinct. Something had shifted. Empire analysts struggled to trace the cause. There was no declaration, no movement of fleets, no visible change. Just a spreading stillness around Earth's borders. A pause like breath before a punch. And then came the whispers. They began in fringe systems, pirate enclaves, and free stations. Places where governments had little sway. Word spread of a man with gray in his hair and no ship of his own. No weapons, no retinue. Just a look in his eyes that made soldiers flinch. He walked through fortified checkpoints without being stopped. He asked no questions. He made no demands. And yet doors opened. One pirate lord tried to test him. His ship was later found adrift, engines intact, crew untouched, every weapon system slagged down to the wiring. A single message pulsed from the NAV beacon. He was courteous. We were not. In the Empire Corps, senators debated retaliation in whispers. Officially, Earth had committed no violation. The Diplomat had not attacked. He had responded. There was no proof of unauthorized activity, no war crime to prosecute. But every analysis led to one conclusion. Earth had created something beyond protocol. Not a spy, not an assassin, an instrument. One senator, a veteran of a dozen annexation campaigns, summarized it best. They sent us a scalpel in a briefcase. We opened it with a hammer. Earth, for its part, said nothing. No retaliation, no outrage, no demands, just silence. And then, as if choreographed, an invitation. The Empire received a formal request for renewed talks. Different location, different envoy, no explanation. The new diplomat was a woman, younger, with an accent that didn't match any nation-state. She wore no insignia, carried no weapon, and requested no escort. Her credentials were valid. Her tone was polite. She smiled often. The Empire accepted. During the first meeting, she placed a single object on the table between the delegations, a neural chip encased in carbon glass. It belonged to the Virexis Prime, specifically to its AI core. We recovered this, she said. We don't need it back. We just want you to understand that we could have kept the rest. There was no threat in her voice, just clarity. She left the meeting with no incident. On her return ship, a private channel activated. Her voice was steady. Subject Ward fulfilled mission parameters. Psychological deterrence matrix successful. Projection estimates. Empire aggression risk downgraded by 73%. A reply came through. A deep voice. Calm. Let them remember. He wasn't the worst we could send. The transmission ended. Years passed. The Empire restructured its diplomatic policies. Human representatives were granted full parity in negotiation chambers. Earth gained economic privileges disproportionate to its size. No one argued. No one wanted to. Caleb Ward was never seen again, but his story never left. To the Empire, he became a cautionary tale. To the outposts, a myth. To Earth, he became a category, unspoken, undocumented, but present. A reminder of what lies beneath courtesy. What comes when a line is crossed. A silent doctrine was born from his legacy. No monument, no medals, just 4 words engraved deep in Earth's covert command channels. Visible only to those clear to see them. Deploy only if necessary. The Empire never tested the line again. They didn't need to. They remembered.